Hey kiddos, here's video number two. We are going to be talking about basically the Articles of Confederation and this debate between national and state power. Again, this is national and state power is the same argument that our ancestors or our political ancestors had or forefathers had with England, colonies versus big government England. This carried over, and we even see this sort of thing today. And the Articles of Confederation was the very first attempt at us trying to create a new government and address these major issues that caused a rift between us and the world's most important power at the time. So I haven't seen all these slides in almost a year. So this will be the first time that I'm going to be looking at these in a while along with you. So bear with me. Hey, the Articles of Confederation, what they were. What the heck were they? Well, the Articles of Confederation were, in fact, our very first national government. When we broke away from the English government, it was actually the Declaration of Independent States. So we actually broke away as 13 individual states or governments or countries. So the Articles of Confederation was our way of trying to get all these different quote unquote countries together into one country and or one rule of law. Think of like the European Union, but a little bit closer coordination. So we were very independent at the time because we were afraid of big government. The Articles of Confederation was created during the Revolutionary War, and they weren't actually completed until a long time after that. It is essentially a firm league of friendship. That's a very important phrase to know. That always gets popped up. But basically, a firm league of friendship is sort of like when you ask that one girl out, and she says, "I just want to be friends." So it's that they recognize that they're forced to live next to each other, but they don't want to get very close to one another. The Confederation again. Think of like the EU. These are states that kept their own sovereignty, but they gave some sovereignty to a big national power or international power. They created this confederation because strong central government was fear. They would create tyranny. They would stamp out natural rights. It would just be King George all over again. This is exactly what they just got done fighting a war for. They don't want to create another a way for tyranny to take place. So this is in their minds. Remember, no one is everyone is a product of their environment, and their environment was the Revolutionary War. It was more of a crucible, if you will. So they want to decentralize government. The states had most of the power. The national government did not really have a lot, but here's some breakdowns, some basic information. It was unicameral legislative body. Each state would have one vote, regardless of population size. Congress had the sole authority to govern the country, which was great, but they really couldn't govern much. And that was it. That was pretty much it. They didn't have a president. They have a president of the Congress. They didn't have a judiciary. They could make their own money, but they had nothing to back it up. Like it was pretty. So the strengths and weakness of the Articles of Confederation. I do like that there are some strengths, and people just think of the Articles as a failure, but it's not. It did a lot of good things and set up what we have today. It was an important stepping stone. The most important accomplishment: we won the war. We won the Revolutionary War. This ragtag, ad hoc government was able to actually beat the most powerful country in the world. So that was a pretty big deal. We created the Northwest Ordinance, which I don't have a map up here, which I should, but it's like Illinois, Indiana, Wisconsin, Ohio, and all of them. They organized that. There was a bunch of open space that states claimed, and basically the states agreed to give it to the national government, and they organized it. If you drive around Illinois or you see like an aerial view of the Midwest, it's all grid systems. That was the Articles of Confederation essentially establishing this grid system. I could get into it more, but no, for you, I'm not going to. They did set up the structure of the executive branch. They did not have an executive branch, but it set up the structure of how the executive branch should work. So we have the cabinet and the different administrations and things like that. So there's some good things. Now let's have some weaknesses. Everything else in the Articles of Confederation is pretty much a weakness. So I'm going to go through the weaknesses and then the how Congress. Sorry, one more time. I'll go over the weakness and then how the Constitution fixed it. So originally, Congress couldn't draft soldiers. The Articles of Confederation, you couldn't do it because if you have a standing army, what are you going to do with this army? Oh, let's let's be tyrannical to our people. It was too weak, and we're going to talk about why it was later on. So in the Constitution, Congress was given the power to declare war and raise a military. It had civilian control, so they trusted that it wasn't going to take everything over. Congress was given power, was denied the power to enforce treaties. So like the Articles of Confederation could make a treaty, and they just couldn't enforce it. So now Congress can make peace and sign treaties. If the Senate can, they can advise a consent on it. Moving on. Congress denied the power to collect taxes from the states. They couldn't. The only way they could actually get money was to ask for it very nicely. And if you have a deadbeat friend who's always asking for money, you're probably not going to want to keep on giving it to them. They could borrow money. This is a strength of the Congress, but the articles could borrow money too. But if they had no way of getting money back, there's a good chance they weren't going to lend the money out. But Congress can make money. They can borrow money. They have a lot of financial powers because, again, the reason why America is here is because money. There's a whole lot of other stuff. There was no national court system. There was no power to regulate interstate commerce, no national currency. Difficult to pass laws. 2/3 of states were needed to make a law, and people today in Massachusetts and Georgia are different. Think of it was 200 years ago. Like they had nothing in common. And a unanimous vote was needed to add an amendment to the Articles of Confederation, so there was absolutely no amendments made, which made the document a stagnant document, and it just couldn't change. I'm not going to go over all the differences the Constitution has, but just kind of look off to the side there, and you'll be able to read it. I'll pause. Fantastic. Oh. All right, problems under the Confederate government. States issuing their own paper money. So, you think that why don't we just make more money if we're out of money? People are in debt, just make more money. The problem is if you make more and more money, the money that's already there is worth less and less. If there was only one iPhone in this entire world, in the entire world, it's very, very valuable. But if there was 4 billion of these things, they're not worth a lot anymore. Same thing with money. There was also a post-war depression. It hurt small businesses. It lowered prices farmers received for their crops, and farmers were unable to pay their debts. And the national government wasn't able to do anything. Whenever there's a recession, think of the Great Recession in 2008, the federal government jumped in and bailed a lot of people out. They helped them out. There's no way for the national government to do that this time around. The biggest issue was banks repossessed these farms on the farmers, and farmers were kind of the backbone of America at the time. So this led to something called Shays Rebellion. In Massachusetts, farmers attacked courthouses and prevented judges from foreclosing farms, which made sense. Daniel Shays was a Revolutionary War officer, and all of his friends were getting their houses repossessed. And my grandpa's a farmer, and there's 4 things that every farmer has. They have land, they have money, they have guns, and they have friends. Oh, 5. They have alcohol. And if you get rid of any one of these 5, guess what? They're going to use the other 4 to get that 5th one back. And that's what happened here. They got a whole bunch of farmers. They would go from courthouse to courthouse to pretty much kidnap judges and burn down courthouses, thinking that if you did that, then they couldn't throw you in jail, which makes a certain amount of sense. They were getting closer and closer and closer to Boston, the capital. Massachusetts was getting really, really worried, and they asked the other states for help, and they said, no, thank you. It's your own civil war. We're not going to deal with it. Eventually, the national government was able to help them out just a little bit, just enough to stop this. But the other states got so worried that they realized they needed some sort of national change. So they agreed to a convention. All right. I already went over this stuff. Blah, 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 blah. Responses to the rebellion. So ignore the last sentence I just said. Neither Congress nor Massachusetts were able to pay to stop the rebellion. Privately paid forces had to do the jobs, like mercenaries, essentially. Sam Adams wrote a law called the Riot Act and prohibited 12 people or more from meeting. So you couldn't have like a class like the size of what we have now. We couldn't have. And gave the government the power to shoot rioters, straight up shoot to kill. That is not very democratic of Sam Adams, who led the top Boston Tea Party for democracy. Also, he's the guy in the beer. I'm running out of time. I gotta hurry up. After the articles, the Constitution. We're gonna stop this and start another movie. So, yay, another video. I was wrong. We'll just wait for this to kind of go out. And